Well, shit, I don't hear. I don't hear anything.
I totally forgot. I have two audio buttons. So one of them is the Zoom, so I can, and then the second one is on the computer, so it doesn't say that I'm muted.
Uh, oh,
It works. So how are you doing with the heat?
hell no. It's too high. It made me confused. I thought I had a fever. I was like, wait, it's too hot.
Right, I get you. During work on Thursday, once it was Thursday, I actually started overheating. I'm like, I think I'm getting sick. And then, yeah, it's about 93, 95 at that point. Not ready.
Enough
Not ready for
sweating.
this.
Hell no.
Knees weak, mom spaghetti.
Like, I don't want to get out of the house. That's what I know. Thank God my brother doesn't have work today. Look, I don't have to take him to work.
It's a good workout just to get in the car.
I guess that's alright. It's the only thing is to worry about is finding parking space. That's all. And since there's types of it, they don't park right. They have too much room. You could have saved that for another car in there. Yeah, but at least I can make my car fit. It's not too big.
Clap.
There you go.
Nice. So I think we're waiting for one more person, though. Other than that, yeah, I love Top. Like, you know, the way they introduce a blind character, and she's okay with it. It's funny how she jokes about her humor about it. It's really funny.
I mean, she owns it though. It's funny. It's like you fucking just tricked everyone. They're like, "Oh, look over there." You're like, "Remember, I can't see."
Like, that's what I would have said if I can see. I think there's another one too. Is like, oh, I haven't seen you in so long. I've never seen you before.
Although I like the way how they did for her when she got older. Like, I can't imagine her still being in the force, to keep order, justice. I think I'd prefer her being on herself. Like, the way how she feels to do. Like, she makes a good point. Like, why am I gonna stay in one place where it's still gonna show up more problems? No matter what you do, it's still gonna come back. And their job is to fix it. It may not be permanently, but keep it from not causing a lot of trouble.
Yeah, trouble is one of the least things we want to worry about. With that being said, what's your opinion in regards to discipline and education?
I mean, I have been looking at some actual ideas of that, and basically what they mention a lot in the videos is that discipline is education. That's what they mentioned. And when I heard of that, just the simple thing, I was gonna first look up just self-discipline and then education, but then those two actually go together. Because of that, you need to know things, but in order to have that, you may need to learn to do it constantly. Basically what they're saying is that it's the education, discipline, it's basically your habits. And I'm trying to set it up like into a good sentence, but I can't get that out of my head now.
It's all good. And then I asked a teacher friend about like discipline or education, which one should come first. And the first thing that popped in her head was when it comes to discipline, it's a very negative. A lot of people take it as a negative connotation, such as like punishment and all those things. In the past, discipline was an okay word to use. Now it's replaced with guidelines, with guidance, different terms. Although I agree with you with teachers should teach students how to create habits, how to discipline themselves. Because how are we able to complete activities if we don't have the discipline, such as being on time, such as being, you can say, being polite, even being a good person. It's kind of cheesy though. It's, you get more out of being a good person, you know?
Yes, it's basically replacing your bad habits with new good habits. But when I hear that, I'm like, what kind of habits are you talking about? Is it the idea of being too loud, use your inside voice? Basically, when we hear the word discipline, we hear it as a bad thing. Back then, who knows? Maybe people did think that it sounded like a bad thing. You're telling me what to do. Give me a reason why I want to do that. Why I should do this. And as in the disciplines, it's another set of rules. It's like you don't need to add the word discipline into the rules. That is already there. Just invisible lines, it's already in the rules. That is the discipline. Just as, for example, you know how they mention in classes of elementary, middle, probably high school still going on. Who knows, in this pandemic, you can still do that on Zoom. Like, there's some little details when they mention, I don't want no chewing in class, no eating in class. Yeah, of course, no eating in class. You don't have to get insects in your own room. Number 2, gums. Who likes a sticky table under that? Hell no, I'm never gonna touch the bottom of those tables ever again. That's literally a terrible idea. And then now that we're in college, I'm like, I still see those chewed gums either way. And maybe in some classes you might see one. Maybe there's that little basically unsatisfied person who just wants to ruin the other person's day by one slimy chewy gum under that table. Hell no. At that point, you just move.
Generally, when you see rules that are when you come across rules that seem very obscure, there's a reason why the rule is over there, mainly because it's happened in the past. So no eating, no chewing gum, all that stuff. There's some history. Some of it is more obscure than others, though. Like how you mentioned, some people, they took advantage of their privilege, and now other people suffer the consequence.
Yes. Along with that, but there would always be, the way you say it is that they have to have a good reason to have these rules. Over the years, they have these rules for a good reason, but sometimes those old rules has to be changed because it's not going to be the same thing as that time of age where school were invented with these rules will not fit with this generation. Like, for example, basically like clothing, you know, like the school code, as in the clothing they have to wear. Yes, there's been a big controversy on that. Like, mostly it's hard to even believe that, and mostly if you tell someone what is a school and what does it contain and what are you going to say to that person who never heard of the word school or anything about it, how are you going to place the definition of it or a short summary of it to a person? What could be the first sentence and what could be the last sentence to introduce someone to a school, and what would be their opinions on it? If you were to say, for example, if you were to start with the clothing for the school, students has to wear what exactly? Private schools, they have their own uniforms. Public schools, sure, they may have their own clothing. For example, they could come casual. What is acceptable? No tank tops. That's literally a good reason. That's too much. Like, it's too much skin. But they have to cut it out with what kind of pants, what kind of shirt, what kind of basically anything, even to the points of socks or shoes. like pants, for example, yoga pants. That's been a big argument about it. Yeah, sure, for basically girls do feel comfortable with it. What if they have that only separate set of clothing? You can't just point out at someone saying that's not allowed here. But what if it's another person who wears the same thing, but they don't say anything to that person? What is it about it? Is it that they get distracted by it? Is it not distractive enough? What is the idea? And then they would point it out that someone will get distracted. They should calm the hell down. That's what should be going on. Like, it's none of your business. Focus on your thing. Could be the same thing with guys. They may wear something that they feel comfortable in it, but someone will tell them that's not appropriate. What's not appropriate about this simple clothing? Your thoughts on that?
First thing when you said that for guys wearing clothing, my mind just kind of went to like guys in booty shorts. Not the best combination, in my opinion. I mean, like if it's hot, well, the weather's hot, not the individual. Let's make sure we got that straight. It goes like I agree with you that there are certain those guidelines that we should be aware of. Yes, my body, my rules, though. To what extent? There's this example that I was told as a kid that people complain that they're judged based on how they're dressed. One example is like girls wearing really tight clothing, and guys the same thing with guys wearing very skinny pants, and they're looked at as rockers or looked at very stereotyped individuals that wear these clothing. That's one thing. And then another thing that popped in my head too when it comes to discipline and clothing, can we say that our minds have been altered to figure out, okay, girls are only allowed to wear skirts, well, boys are only allowed to wear pants? And correct, I don't remember I want to look it up just to make sure. I think it's in Sweden. It's a kilt. I believe it's called a kilt. It's a man skirt, pretty much. In those areas, it's okay for men to wear skirts. Though over here, we're looked at cross dresses. We're looked at, I don't even know what other terms were called. I'll look up to see where kilts are from, though.
I mean, I did hear things about it too. I mean, that is a proper word to say a kilt in a certain place, but here we would call it a skirt. And yes, you're right. Maybe our mindset is different than compared to any other place. Like in Scotland, you mentioned, they call it a kilt, but we call it a skirt. They might take offense of it or not. Who knows how they'll react? I don't know, because I've never went there or had the experience of encountering anything like that. But our mindset is different to different places, just as you mentioned. We may not have the same idea, but where it originated is what it means in that place. When it originates here, it stays in this place. May have different definitions of it too, but its purpose is basically harmless. If a guy were to wear a kilt here, it should be no big deal. Maybe, yeah, you may get some glares at, wondering why is he wearing a skirt? But you don't know their life. It's like, don't judge a book by its cover. Again, don't do that. You don't know what their life is, where are they from. Just as long as they're happy with what they're wearing, it should be no problem.
If you're comfortable with what you're wearing and you are okay with taking criticism, I feel like that's another thing too. Then you're free to wear anything you want. We need to have that tough skin.
You mean the matured mind? I think that should be the word to describe that, I guess. Like, it's not just only what you like to wear. Yes, for you will feel, I like this shirt, I like these pants, I like everything that I'm wearing on. I feel happy. Other people would make it seem like, wow, you look really good. Who are you trying to impress? No one. I'm just happy with the clothing that I wear. Like, why should there be a reason towards the sudden comfort and the likes that you prefer to wear? It's like you're only trying to make yourself happy with what you have, what you really like in your style. It's not like someone is enforcing you to wear them. Have a reason to have that style on you. but others will think differently. But you know what? Screw them. It's none of their business.
True that. And I feel I would argue that private schools. That's one. Well, I feel there's a lot of reasons with why private schools initiate school code. Though that's possibly another thing too. That we as humans we naturally judge individuals based on how they look. So if we're all dressed similarly with collared shirts, with pants, appropriate clothing, you can only assume so much just based on the shirt. If it's wrinkled, if there's a stain, even that though it's not that much, you can really be picked from something. You can't really gather information based on the uniform.
Even they would call out on you, you have something wrong on it. Like, for example, it can be something like it's too hot. I don't want to wear these things. It's too hot. We don't have air conditioner. Or maybe you do, but it's still too hot. What are they going to do about it? You have to deal with it until it reaches the temperature to a certain degree. Once it hits that degree, you have to change into something that's appropriate for that weather. Like, for example, private schools for girls who would wear skirts. It's too cold. When is it the appropriate time to have leggings, warm leggings, or more likely it will be more like warm leggings. I don't know if they would prefer pants. That would be useful. But at what certain degree would you allow these students to wear them? That's one of the things. And then you may not have the control to pick your own school. You live with your own parents. You're not old enough for that. And they decide to enroll you here. You're following their guidelines. You sign the paper. You do the years there until your parents decide to move you. You have to deal with it. I don't know if they can talk it out, change a little bit of the rules. But if they're really strict, then, well, damn, you need a lot of help with that.
Being able to push through all that to wear excessive amount of clothing in the heat and then still managing to...
Is it the appropriate time to have leggings, warm leggings, or more likely it will be more like warm leggings. I don't know if they would prefer pants. That would be useful. But at what certain degree would you allow these students to wear them? That's one of the things. And then you may not have the control to pick your own school. You live with your own parents. You're not old enough for that. And they decide to enroll you here. You're following their guidelines. You sign the paper. You do the years there until your parents decide to move you. You have to deal with it. I don't know if they can talk it out, change a little bit of the rules. But if they're really strict, then, well, damn, you need a lot of help with that.
Being able to push through all that to wear excessive amount of clothing in the heat and then still managing to not only be yourself, though, to succeed in school, that I feel like that's a great skill to have. Granted, we shouldn't force individuals through these situations. I mean, if there's no other way to get out of the situation, might as well learn from it, you know?
Yeah. Along with that, since we were talking about private schools, yes, they certainly are different than compared to public schools. But there are some public schools that would still want their dress code. Like for example, it could be these typical yellow, light blue, well, basically baby blue and navy blue shirts. Girls, boys wear these same color pants or skirts, and how they should have their attire. The same thing as a private school. Maybe they would, like, I remember that they mentioned no dyeing hair. But what if your hair was naturally blonde or basically red, like somewhat red-orange? They would assume that you painted it, or they would want you to paint it to a certain color that is normal. That's gonna suck. And mostly when you suddenly cut your hair, they're like, that's not an appropriate hair. I'm sorry, you gotta go bald, or I don't know why. That sucks. Like, it's just something that you're speechless with, and you don't know what to do at that point. And you know, if something goes wrong, a parent would go and talk to the principal. If they don't do anything, they will put it on Facebook. Everyone will hear your story.
I can't believe this happened to my child. ... This school should be sued. ... Don't send your child to the school. ... Where clearly, if you read the rules, it says no dyeing of certain colors. Well, with the exception of individuals whose hair is naturally that color. There have been situations where schools force a student to dye their hair a certain color because they want it, I believe, everyone to be the same hair color. I'm not sure. I don't really remember the whole story. So it's happened.
Even with certain clothes, like a hoodie, they don't allow hoodies, and yet it was a scandal too. I remember watching some unbelievable rules that still exist in certain places and in different schools. And one of them was that there was no hoodies in school or anywhere in school campus, well, basically in their area. And one student was sent home because of that. And it turns out that that student was wearing a hoodie, but it was of the school logo, you know, like their symbol. Basically, it was a school pride for them, a school pride sweater for that. And it had a hoodie on. So you send your own student who's showing their pride and joy for your school because it has a hoodie, and you send them back home just to change. Like, what's going on? This is your own product.
No shameless plugs here, unfortunately. Gotta go by the rules.
Along with the certain hairstyle, mostly specifically for boys, I think they mentioned that a lot. Like the certain way how you cut your own hair. Like there was a kid, he's basically a kid. They don't have to call the cops on him. It was a kid who had a striped line on his side of his head. He's been having it for the whole first, I don't know if they still call it a semester in elementary. I don't know. And they sent him back home because they said that he wasn't allowed to have those stripes on his side of his hair, even though he had it for that first semester of school, and they didn't say anything to him. So at that point, it's either shave the whole thing or just use a marker to hide those two lines. I'm like, are you serious? And these teachers did not see that. One teacher said it was okay. The other said that it was inappropriate, and somehow he got in trouble. Along with another student who has long hair, and they say it's not appropriate for a guy to have a long hair, but he's doing it for a good cause, to donate his hair for someone else, for cancer. And I'm like, what?
That's right. There was a story of a child that he was bullied throughout, I guess, elementary school. I don't recall that the school year he was in. It was about, I don't remember how long it was. So he ended up donating it. It was a good chunk of hair for women or for young girls who couldn't grow their hair because of cancer or because of health issues. So, and not to mention too, I remember in my high school, like how you mentioned, boys' hairstyle are specific. We can't have it too long. It's not allowed to cover our ears. At the same time, it can't be too short. We're not allowed to be bald.
Oh yeah, and mohawks. I remember that's still not appropriate for school. Even in high school, I'm like, damn. I haven't seen a student with a mohawk in my years so far in the schools that I attended to, because it was strictly forced into. And I'm like, damn, what's wrong with the mohawk? Like, it's not gonna shank anyone.
I mean, people are hard-headed, so they might just bang their head at something and it'll stick.
Yeah, pues ya que.
It's a hobby they have, head banging.
But I guess still enforcing the rules. Another set of disciplines is that the clothing you wear is what people will see. People might think. Like, like the way how you said a certain type of clothes that others see, it's not gonna be the same thing as theirs. It's gonna be your own style, and they will categorize you as, like the typical nerd with glasses and then something else. Typical a bitchy girl. How would they wear? A typical loner. I don't know if they still single that out. And rock or emos, just starting all black. And I'm like, I remember being categorized in the emo section, and I don't know how I got there. One told me, he was like, why are you so emo? And I was like, what? I was so confused in that. I was like, why are you categorizing me as an emo? And they gave me the reasons why. One, because I'm wearing too much black. Sometimes I would wear black shirts, black shoes sometimes, or a black bracelet. And that's it. They only categorize me by the clothing. And I was like, what about the attitude? I don't think I have an attitude of that either. So we'll categorize a person into these roles, but yet they're not exactly that. They just want to wear what they like, their style. But they might not categorize themselves as that, so let them be.
Yeah, definitely discipline on that. That I want to say discipline on that part. Going back to we shouldn't judge children. Well, we shouldn't judge. I can speak today. We shouldn't judge individuals based on how they look. At the same time, I feel that's where education should come in. Fun fact about wearing black: the individuals who wear a lot of black, they're actually shown to be more creative, and that's I've noticed a lot of individuals who are artists, especially Eddie, like surprisingly, not so much Rio Hondo, that they just naturally wear black, and they are art majors. They do a lot of commissions. They're heavily influenced in the art industry. So even though black is portrayed as negative, as all these non-creative stuff, it tends to be the opposite.
That's true. And I've met some people like that too. They would wear black, and I'm like, the style that they use is so nice. I'm like, that's a cool ass shirt right there. I want one. But then it's just that people don't think it through. They don't decide to think it through. They just assume it, and that's it. Not really knowing that person, basically. And they would assume bad things about it, or maybe think that it's a bad idea, or don't want to go in it, or befriend them either. And I'm like, well, damn, that sucks. You just assume by their clothing are not gonna attack you.
Middle schoolers are very feisty individuals.
And mostly little kids, man, they're freaking brutal. They're gonna be freaking honest with you straight up.
It's not bad to be honest. At the same time, it's knowing not so much filter, it's being able to know how to say it. There was this analogy that someone used one time. When you're with an individual that's more on the heavier side, and you're concerned for that. That's not the best way to say it. You're concerned for their health. Instead of saying, "Hey, lose some weight, you're gonna die," you just say, "Hey, I'm starting this workout. I need an accountability partner. Would you be down there to keep me accountable?" From there, have that friend will be persuaded in one way. At the same time, will be interested in like, oh, this person's running. I should let me try running for a little bit. Let me eat less, depending on the situation and things. Next thing you know, they're 30 pounds lighter.
Best workouts are the ones when you're with a friend or someone that you trust. Those are the best workouts. They will persuade you. They would encourage you to keep on going. They're like your personal cheerleader, and you do the same with them. You can do this.
Go team, go stuff. Yes. That's my cheer for the week.
So far, I mean, it's too hard to cheer either way. I feel like I'm dying here. with so much heat.
Last night, well, actually, it was around 2 in the morning. I was working on an assignment project, and it felt like it reminded me of Texas. Just early in the morning, you would expect it to be a little chilly. Nope, it was 73 in the morning. Still hot, too hot to wear a sweater. It was gross.
Uh,
Still not a fan of the heat.
and mostly it was, and mostly if you're just sitting in your own bed, hell no, that's just too much. I mean, that's what gets. But I don't know. We're in more heat than the other years we lived through the heat. To the day we were born, it was getting more hot. The more we do the things that we should be really stopping with. Mostly when they mention global warming, what do we think of? What is mostly the thing that you think of?
It's a hoax.
And I don't believe in it. Well, hopefully these candidates in the future will see that through. I'm not gonna go straight to politics. That's too much things going on. And we're going with discipline for today and education.
Politics. That should be another. We should talk about that with education. On the serious note, I saw on the news that scientists were. I'm not sure if they confirmed it yet, though. They were saying that the ice glacier. I'm not sure what area, where I guess the polar bears or the colder areas, they're at a point of no return because the ice is melting much faster than it should. Global warming, it's real, pretty much.
I mean, it is flooding certain different areas around the world, though, isn't it? I think somewhere here in, I don't know if it's somewhere here in California or somewhere else. Oh, you're gonna put your.
Well, there was a flash flood warning. I don't know if you got it. We had it from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Surprisingly.
Oh God. And I thought Mexico had the worst one too.
Recently, there was a hurricane. Someone made a comment that's the reason why we're getting all this heat wave, and then with the clouds and fires. Why not?
I mean, that's insane, but yet scary at the same time. Like, hell no. Now we have to deal with something very hot that we can't deal with. It's nature against us.
Mother Nature just loves her surroundings.
I mean, that's what happened today in 2020 now. We're still in 2020. Hopefully next year gets better. Who knows? Hopefully it's not something deadly. No.
2020, the year that never happened.
It could be the end of us, though. Like, imagine we had, We have the pandemic, asteroid that close hits us. What else? Derrumbes. God damn it.
Back in February, we were close to World War III after 4 years of President Trump being in office.
Ooh.
And then January, Kobe died. Rest in peace to him.
Hopefully it doesn't come back.
I'm kind of curious. I was that popped in my head that it just came out of nowhere that Kobe passed away. The beginning of the year before the war, the potential war, and before the pandemic, which is where we're at right now.
And yeah, there's so many issues with it, and we're trying. Basically, the United States is trying the best to lower the cases down, but the difference is that not just one person with a lot of power, or more than one person, because this is no kingdom, okay? Basically, it's not their. Also, it's not only their responsibility to get us all living or get the assistance, the help to get our own citizens to feel better, to feel safe. But also the work has to do with the citizens as well. The people who live in the United States has to do their part in order to lower those rates, lower the death rates on the virus. But they should also not think about themselves and think about others. Surely you may not feel comfortable wearing a mask, but the thing about it is that you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for someone else too. You're doing it for everyone. If you decide to be selfish and not follow these guidelines, which are simple, you just have to wear a mask. They're not asking you to go take a shower and come back. Wear the mask. There's not gonna be a problem. Oh my god.
I agree. Wear a mask. This will help out, right? Keep all the particles away. Though it's true though, that we need to come together. That we
Not
claim,
literally. Not literally.
we need to get social distance now. We need to be one. We're United States. Well, this is kind of going a different way. We're the United States. We claim we're the land of the free. We claim that we're the best of the best. We claim many things. Yet we don't even we're just words at this point. We're not even not all of us have shown we have put action behind our words. So we're just ideas. We're just a joke, which many countries, and personally I agree with them that we're just words. We're not even
doing the things that we're basically what the ancestors who created the country, the United States, to do, mostly with the laws of having people to be safe. What is more important, safety for the people or a certain item? It's the same thing in one of the constitutions too, when they say the rights to bear arms. But what's the point of it if it's supposed to protect the people? And why are we protecting guns? What's so important, the guns or the people? There's gonna be too much dilemma on it. I'm just gonna stop there. No.
We want guns. At the same time, we don't want gun
mass
violence.
killing.
I'm like, what's the thing they call it now? God, that's Jesus. Yeah, educating ourselves is a big thing. So, kind of rattling back to the question, discipline versus education. Schools shouldn't just focus on discipline because that's one of the parents. It's a job of a parent. A parent shouldn't
Educate
rely
their
on
own child on the things that are right or wrong. And the education of the parent is a reflection of their little self, or is it the other way around? It's supposed to be the kids' education behavior is reflected from their parent. I think that's what they mentioned.
the future. The freedom of the mother, the freedom of the child depends on the freedom of the mother, pretty much.
Yeah, or father, that too, as well. And it's gonna suck because maybe it's not gonna be the same thing. Maybe the child, when they get older, they get rebellious. I don't know. Anything happens in their own household. It's just the way how you treat your child, how you discipline them. There's different ways of disciplining them. I'm not gonna go through that.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy that it's interesting. Not so much crazy that we kind of going back with Land of the Free. We are given this opportunity to, I would say, experiment, not in a bad way, though. We get to trial and error, get to see what works with our children, what works with these individuals coming from a child development background. That every child is different, let alone every individual is different. We were all children at one point, and we were raised at we grew up in certain areas. Yuri Broffer mentions that our environment really impacts the way we are. If we grew up in a lower income, a ghetto area, we are more likely to have I'm not so sure if it will be an accent or a dialect of sounding very, very ghetto, very aggressive. Where if you're an individual that's always surrounded by scholars, by teachers, by educators, we will have that vocabulary to enunciate, to express ourselves. You can tell I'm not the biggest educator with my lack of vocabulary.
I mean, neither am I, and I'm still struggling to get them in sentences. I mean, it's easier to write it down. Maybe sometimes just error, you can't autocorrect that, okay? But we're still trying our best to communicate, to be more open-minded, try to talk more. Because imagine being in quarantine and decide to be in your own room for the whole day, whole month, not talk to your own family members maybe, or sometimes gets you very strange when you start talking out loud, and it just sucks, and that makes you feel like you need to take communication 101 all over again and have those pronunciations correctly, and it just sucks. We're not that professional. Although we're expected to do that as students and as grown-ups so far. We already hit that age where we're considered grown-ups. And that's another way of discipline as well.
Very, very true. I had something something was kind of popping in my head, and I don't remember. Another thing that popped in my head was the monkey that wanted the orange. I'm not sure if you remember that with John Mark.
I think you mentioned it in the other session we had.
Yeah.
Is that we had another person here, but so far I don't see that other person.
Yeah, it looks like it's just gonna be us two today. I know. Do you remember Alex, the gentleman that came for about 15 minutes and then he dipped?
Oh yeah, that's right. What about him?
He was gonna show up though. Something probably happened. He told me that in Sacramento, San Francisco, like one of the areas up north, that the teacher the way he disciplines students is he makes them write a poem based on what they did wrong. So not only do they reflect what they did wrong, they get to express it. So like I was mad. What's the word? They self-identified what just happened. It forces them to rewind and see what happened.
It's a self-reflection upon your actions, and a way to go through with it is to deal with it and basically accept it, and then later on do what must be done the next time you do a similar situation, and not do the same error that you did once before.
A wise person I was gonna make up a quote though. Basically, the smart people share their knowledge. Wise people learn from people's mistakes, which I feel like is two totally different things. So,
isn't that basically the fool? The fool who commit errors becomes a wise man, wasn't it?
Yep. The difference between a master and a student is the master has made more mistakes.
Yes.
That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's a downside, kind of specifically targeting the United States education. So if you're listening now,
Bruh, we're not even the great country anyways. We're not the great. We've never been the great, to be honest. You may say we are, but we're not exactly. Give us one reason why we're a good country.
We're America.
There you go. America.
Basically what it comes down to.
Like when they mention we're gonna make America great again. Exactly when did we make it great again? God damn it. I'm gonna stop.
That is true. I know that was a big propaganda, what's the term? Slogan, motto that Trump used, which apparently really helped him out.
Apparently it's not very original if someone already used it.
True.
They just brought it back, copyright, and there you go.
Everything's copyrighted if you go down to it, though. After a amount of certain years, or if it's not trademarked, it's up for grabs.
Yeah, but then they're still gonna say it's like once you say make America great again. What is the first thing that people think about?
I'm not sure what people would think about. Personally, I would think about Trump just because of how much he used it. It spread out like wildfire real quick.
I mean, that was his big slogan, and it's like it's not gonna get rid of someone's head because we lived through basically the elections, how it went down, how many people went to see that memorable day. But it just Others will see it as a downhill. Others will see it as, wow, he's gonna be our savior. No, 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 no. That's why we're having another election. And so far, we have some, I don't know if we can say promising candidates so far. So, what do you think?
We have Kanye West.
Oh, God.
He dropped out already, right? Just making sure.
I don't know. I haven't checked that out. I only know that there's I think there's gonna be I think there's a woman for election. There's a woman going for election there.
That's new. I know.
I don't know. Wait.
I know that Joe Biden has his VP is a woman. The first, correct me if I'm wrong. She's at first, I believe, Black VP, first woman VP, and the first Israel. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember which one though. She's the first. She's the first person of 3 different categories. I know that.
I don't know much about it, but we should still do a little bit more research on that. Either way, just to be sure.
Education, it helps.
Yeah, I think I've seen a little bit of that, but I'm not quite sure. I think I have a video of that. That's not what I want. I think I seen one of the videos that they mentioned about it. I don't know if it was Camila.
Man, if we were in a political science class, we would have failed that. Mainly because
we would have sucked and we would have got an F on that. Never mind.
Thank God.
Oh my God, and my government teacher's gonna be so disappointed in me too.
I feel like there's that one professor that's not even mad that we don't remember anything information. She's like, I'm just happy you're alive still.
It's like, I'm surprised how you're still living to this day. And we managed somehow.
It's like, oh, the student says something to the teacher. Keep studying. Don't give up. Stay in school. Pretty much is the go-to. School saves lives. And going back to...
I remembered Kamala Harris.
Oh, you remember?
That's her name. That's her name. Kamala Harris. I think... Let me see if I can find... I'll show you once I find it to you. But you can continue on with what you were going to say. Because it sounded way more important than what I just said.
I am doing my best to finish off thoughts that I feel like I'm doing good about. I'm getting better. No, anyways, with going back with the United States and the system, we actually used to be. We were tied with Finland at the time. We were ranked right now. I believe we're ranked number 29 in the country and the whole world. And Finland currently is one of the top schools. It's number 1. I want to sure. I remember what year it was. I believe it was in the 1900s or 1800s. That Finland and the U.S. they would go back and forth on who was better. It was still we weren't the best. Though, I mean, it was between Finland and the U.S. were close to each other. Then Finland boosted their education, and ironically, mainly it's because of a few reasons. One, they don't provide homework. Another thing they do is they reduce the amount of time of work. So instead of going 8 hours a day, 7 days, it feels like 7 days sometimes, right? 5 days a week on top of homework. So it's pretty much you're a full student. For individuals to be in school in the United States, that's basically a full-time job. And it's legal. Woo! Free pay. I mean, no pay.
But thinking about it, if it were to say what is more important, education or discipline, but in reality, you need both of them, as if you have to accept it or not. Because what is education if people are not willing to put the effort in learning the unknown, or learning what other of your ancestors, to your parents' ancestors, learned about? Have a better idea in the new education system, and think about what should be the top priority, what are more important. Like, goddamn, if you were to put for example, well, Actually, English would be one of the important ones you need to learn on your language, the way of speaking, the way how they put on their sentences to a paragraph. Whoever has difficulties, they would still learn from that. You would need math, but chill out with the advanced math. Not a lot of people are going to become scientists or nurses unless that's their dream. Each person has their style, their, what do you want to call it, their inspiration of what they want to be when they become of age, or if they decide to go to college or university. What are they going to pursue in life? Sometimes they might be pressured into doing something that they might not like, and they're going to have to deal with it. But at some point, they have to step up and say, Mom, Dad, I don't like this career. I want to do this.
Not to mention, too, many children are, I'm not so sure now, though in the past we were fearful of going against what our parents wanted us to do, because the parents thought this is something we want to do, as like being a doctor, being a lawyer, where we want to be someone that we want to go into the digital field, we want to be in the entertainment business. There's so much we can do, and spending all this time on one thing just to please someone, a family member especially, it's draining. Especially too, like many individuals focus on money. I didn't realize like how big of an issue this was. That many people look at money rather than what they really want to do, and you can see that at, like with employers at work, for individuals who are working for money and individuals who are passionate about what they do.
Yes, along with that, yes, that's a big deal. Mostly if you're from another country, you decide to come here, you have a child that's born here, you may have a poor income, and you see your child as your future lifesaver right there. And you hope that your child becomes a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, typically what any other place would want their child to be, and then gain money. They want their child to live a comfortable life and someday to give their parents the comfort that they need from their so much hard work. That's what probably what a parent would want, as financially stable, to be financially stable, to have enough money to live comfortably. But the one part that's very also important with it as well is that your child should also have basically the joy of doing their job, the job that they're not gonna hate every day, waking up like 6 a.m. to do the job that they hate, but then they're doing it because they need the money, they're doing it for their family. Or that's gonna suck, but they might be selfish enough to do that for them. You don't know how many child who promises their parent, I'm gonna become this, or I can give you the most comfortable life that you deserve. Like, they're gonna be like that, or one day they would be, Mom, you have to understand, I don't like this choice and I'm probably gonna hate it, and for the rest of my life if I continue this, but I want to pursue this career, and I promise you that nothing wrong will happen. And then all they need is their parents' support, or the people that they trust who believe they can do it. But damn, that's gonna be hard.
Around our time, helicopter parents were pretty interesting individuals.
Oh, yes.
Now with Gen Z, I'm not sure if it's the official term, though. Many parents nowadays are lawnmower parents. They want to make sure everything's good. They don't want their pride and joy to be injured, which it's shown. If you prevent children from making mistakes, they're more likely to make mistakes as they get on. So why not let them mess up, let them get dirty, let them be kids at the end of the day. So they learn these life skills as they grow up. They won't fall behind. They won't be embarrassed to try new food because they thought they don't know what the food is, so it's not going to be good.
But how are you gonna know if you're not gonna? How are you gonna know if you don't like it if you don't try it? That's the thing you need to learn to try different things to see what you like. Maybe you're gonna like something new and you're gonna want to do it, or you want to try something different, try something new. I don't know if I said that again, but it's just gonna be hard because as a child, you don't want to disappoint your parents. You don't want to basically. I don't know if they still use the way of how to express their feelings towards another person, as in you don't want to be a disgrace to your own family. Sure, it's gonna be tough, but sometimes it could be resolved. Well, it's gonna suck if you know them pretty much, and everyone's not gonna be the same or the way how you hoped it could be. All you can do is move forward. The same with discipline. You're gonna go against on the things that you don't agree with, and you're gonna disagree. Another word of discipline there.
Definitely, there's so many things that you are able to learn, able to develop that discipline. There are many things you can learn in the age, and you can be educated on. Schools should allow children to explore, to do things, to mess up, to be troublemakers, to learn when is it okay to go to the restroom versus when it's time to focus. There's a mix. There's a big mix. There's no right or wrong answer. I feel in this. I actually got this idea came from a post on Instagram. It says in Japan, students are taught manners over education because they don't believe. I need to look it up again. But pretty much they teach children. They teach children manners growing up. And if you know anything about Japanese culture, they are one of the kindest. They are very well mannered.
Well-mannered, and sometimes it would put the like the typical parents wanting different race, different country. They would say this country is very disciplined and very strict in education. Here, what would we say? They're way laid back, but they still have an education system. The discipline part would have to be on their parents, but sometimes it would do the same thing with the schools. They would enforce these rules to have the discipline. What must not be done, what must be done. Must do what the professor says, but what if you disagreed on that? You would have to bend the rules at some point. But once you think about it, how was this education system made? Originally, this education system was for, basically way back. It was basically for students, basically read and write, math, and to work in factories. That was originally the system. But now that the generation is growing, and now that factories, sometimes they might have less co-workers, meaning less jobs, and more people wanting more jobs. That's why the candidates would have to promise or try to promise that we will find more jobs, we will create more jobs, because that's what people need. They need a job where they can sustain their families and the needs for their daily life. Without those jobs, there's just going to be an increase of homeless. That's the most tragic part. Homeless, having no place to go home, and less unemployed citizens. And then they will be replaced with machines. That's how it is nowadays. Technology is advancing. Instead of hard labor, they're gonna replace it with the future, which is machines, and that's gonna be a problem for people. Meaning they could be very replaceable if the owner or the company decides that. So basically, they need to change that, even in the school system as well, because everyone may be taught all these things. You will have different students who excel and some who won't. Like, for example, you may not be good in this subject, but you are good in this other subject. Maybe you should just focus more on that one, but sometimes you would need a little bit of the other things. What should we do about it? Check it out. Even a student who doesn't do well in high school, they may do well in college. Well, that's at least one of my professor said. As their student, one student, I think he had two, maybe I'll just go with one. He had one student who was not doing well in his classes, so he instead decided to take him out of the class, take him out of the school, and put him into college classes. He did well in those. I don't know what went wrong, but he excelled somehow. It's the school system that's lacking. Not everyone's the same.
One of the best, there's, well, so many sayings that kind of popped in my head all of a sudden. Though one of the really well-known saying is we're all geniuses. If you grade a fish based on how well it climbs a tree, the fish is going to think it's dumb, which goes into play that school shouldn't be a cookie cut system. We need to adapt, whether we want to or not, whether we have the funds or not. In my opinion, it starts with the teachers. It starts with the community. It starts with us wanting to make a difference, which is cheesy to say because, the United States, we tend to take action when it's already the last straw. So hopefully with this pandemic, we're learning, we're growing, we're being humans, we're uniting as a state.
I mean, we have online classes too. I mean, the reason why we have them is because most of the teachers, or basically, we're all afraid that we will get the virus. That's the reason why we have online classes. But yet, you still have buildings with no students. That's gonna be a problem for the school. But if you were to decide what's more important, the future generation or the education that's basically a building with no teachers and no students. A building is just a building, but it will surely suck for the owner there. But it's more important to keep the future children of the generation to succeed, find a loophole, find a way to still have education in your own home. That's why we have online classes. We have Zoom here. Surely not a lot of people might not have access with it, but hopefully they find a way to educate themselves. Sometimes a parent will help them study, educate them, what they learned from their past, but sometimes that's not gonna be enough because the system of the schools changed the things. Like, for example, math. I didn't realize how much teachers changed the way of how to find your answer in math. It's a lot more steps. The reason for you to understand how you got there. But if you just write, for example, 12 plus 4, how do you get there? I don't know that's a good example, but I just know that you just need to get the number, add it up, you got your answer. Or not draw the little sticks on your notebook. That's how you get one of them. Count with your fingers, that's another one. But it just shows how we suck at that too, because we rely on technology too. Like, how have you ever met someone who's good at math that they don't need a calculator? They do it all in their heads. And I'm like, God damn, they know their thing.
They're expert at their crafts.
Yes.
Man.
Along with the teachers who's teaching the students. Now that I think about it, not a lot of teachers don't get paid enough to teach. I don't know if that's still the issue going on, but they should be paid enough to support themselves and to be in good health to teach other students.
That's actually a big key too. That was an argument that's gone way a while back. There was strikes going on too last year. I'm not sure if you remembered or if it affected you in any way. Though you mentioned about health, it didn't even occur to me that obviously teachers are underpaid. Obviously, there's many being healthy can be expensive depending on the resources we're given. Though if we're not at our best, how are we able to be to teach at our best? You know, it goes to what are we doing for our children? So our what are we doing for our students so our students could help out their future generation? Not sure if that makes sense. I had it in my head, and
I mean, it's hard to say things that are in your mind and say it out with words. I mean, it's another difficulty we have now. We can't say the things right. It feels like you just need to basically rehearse that line all over again. It's just that we're not that much of an expert in these things either. We learn from research and somewhat experience of it, or what we lived through, and experience what other people are going through. Like underpaid teachers, they do deserve like a lot. You're teaching the next generation. That's a lot to do. Imagine a private teacher. How much do they get paid? Now that I think about it, they get paid a lot. Do they get paid a little bit? I don't know.
they actually
But they're
get paid
doing
a
it.
lot less.
Oh my god, that's even worse.
They're not funded. They're not funded by government. So private schools come up with funds based on with sponsors with different programs. With that being said, teachers in private schools are paid much less in the elementary, the K through 12 system. I'm not sure if it's the same thing in college and universities, though. The K through 12 system, teachers are known to be less paid in the private.
But I think it's the same. I think it was with the same issue with tutors. I think they get paid less too, right?
I believe so. I'm actually not sure about that.
Yeah, because I remember basically, I don't know if you remember that there was like a program where it helps students to work in summer school, but not literally go to summer school to do these classes, but a tutor were coming to your home or a different location of the city or anywhere here that's nearby. For example, it could be at a coffee shop or a public library, and they would tutor the student right there and see what they need improvements on. Like, I went through one of the programs as well, is that the tutor and the parent decide where they should meet, and mine was in the public library. Mine was the foreign library. Too bad it's now replaced with a new building. It's gonna be an apartment, because lately there's been buildings showing up now. They're building a lot of things now. More housing, basically more apartments, more people to live in now. That's whatever's going on here. And they moved the Florence Library to a different location. I don't know where they went now. I have to look that up now. And this program basically teaches the student English, math, anything that they need problems with. And once you complete the session, like I think it's every one Saturday the month of the summer. And once you finish it, you get yourself a laptop for free.
Dang,
That's what it is.
I was thinking it was a pod, like a teacher pod. That's something that's popping up now. So that's really interesting. It's cool too that you were able to be in a community that supported that they gave help. They provided the education and availability to increase your knowledge.
It was very helpful. Actually, managed to pass that. It helps elementary school students for that. I think that's how I went into it, because I wasn't good at math nor English very well. Because the way how I speak, the way how I write, I still have trouble with that either way. But I still excel with art, close to the animation, and somewhat government, and history as well with that, because history is another part of art as well. And with the interesting stories, the untold stories that elementary and middle school to high school sugar-coated the history. They sugar-coat the things. we look up to those, and then now when we're in college or somewhere with more education, we start realizing, wow, we've been tricked the whole time. We've been tricked throughout our lives that America had all these things. They resolved it, maybe peacefully, maybe not. But the whole bloody, terrible stories about it and how it became to be. And the actions, the people who did these were somewhat might have been punished or might not be punished. They got away with it. Now that we see this, it just sucks. And now we were like, wow, I had no idea this actually happened. And that's why we have the history, where we could understand it and for we cannot make the same mistakes. The more you know, you know?
Right, Napoleon Hill, when I found out that he wasn't a midget, I want to quit school. On the serious note, I'm really curious. 20 to 30 years from now, I want to see how society writes this history, because we, of course,
2020.
Yep, we were in quarantine. We decided not to be in quarantine. We were almost in a war. President thought it was a hoax at first. Individuals
to inject yourself with something else, and it didn't turn out great. I'm like, God damn, all these things happened during the few months of this year.
At this point, I feel like it's just the norm. Like I really forget that we're in a pandemic. We're supposed to obviously, I do my best to social distance. I still wear a mask, though. Like, I feel like wearing a mask is just a normal thing. Keeping yourself at a distance. I'm like, oh yeah, this is normal. Going to school online, yeah, you know.
And mostly when you're trying to receive your packages. Now that I looked at through Wish or Amazon, I think now they're doing is just, instead of shipping the package to your own home, you ship it to a nearby store, and it's less costly for the shipping. That's how it is. And for me, since I'm basically the one with the car, Dad is working, so he's not around because he's working to provide the family. I'm the one who goes out and get groceries, get the things that we need, basically. And I would not allow my mom to go outside. That's who I am now. I'm like, Mom, you're not going outside. The way how you said, I'm not going outside when I was little, you're not going outside today.
It's like, who's in charge?
Like a reverse. And I try to stay away from people, but then people still come near you or don't respect that you don't realize that you're in a pandemic and you need to distance yourself from other people. Like for me, there was a kid and I'm like, should I speak up or should I just move away? I went with the second option. I moved away from that guy, the little kid. The kid with a scooter decides to roll in closer to me, and I'm like, this is enough. I told him to just please stay in your own space. I don't know what's going on, but
social distance.
Please respect my space, please. Just as much as I try to respect yours too. And that's it. And yeah.
Just have a pipe next. Just have a PVC pipe or a 2x4 right next to you. So when you turn, they'll give you your distance.
I know, right? But it's the same thing as, like, it's not the same thing, but it's like bullying, you know? When your parents say, mostly they say it in Spanish, but for me, it is. To translate that, they say, don't cause a fight, just get away from that person who's bothering you. Yeah, that's right, I do that, but they still come back. So I would have to tell them to back off, or tell the professor, tell someone else to help you out, or now you deal with it yourself. Sure, I would not advise that fighting basically fist to fist is not a good idea, but sometimes you would need that for that's the only way they would understand. Somehow they always understand that. It's like, back off or I will punch you. There you go. They didn't listen, you get the punch, now you get what I mean. The same thing, it happened to me once.
You can say
you never mess with me ever again.
You can say that was a punchline.
It's like he was gonna start the bullying and I ended it with what he was gonna do. I'm like, hell no, I'm not gonna go with this. It's not ever a good idea. You may feel you should not feel sorry about it, but you will feel sorry that you could have done something else besides fighting. But that was the only way. Never mess with you ever again. And it's maybe the only option you have to defend yourself. But that's another self-discipline as well. You know, like, sure, you may have the discipline, don't fight in school, but what if that's not the option anymore? You would have to defend yourself, and somehow most students still get in trouble and get, you know, well, you can't say expelled. They're just not gonna be showing up for school for some time or just be in detention.
It's important to know the story. What happened? The situation. Who was there? What triggered it? We call it ABC. The antecedent, behavior, consequence. So what happened before the behavior, and then what was done to stop the behavior, or what happened afterwards. Those
it sucks. You're filled with someone with more power with you. They're like, I don't care. You're both getting detention. What? You're the one trying to defend yourself, and yet you still get detention. And it just sucks, even though you have witnesses who saw that. Maybe you have two only, but still. And then once that happens, you might as well tell your mom what happened, tell your dad what happened, and make them go to the principal's office and let them know.
Did you win? Almost every dad. Did you win the fight? Did you cry? No. Let's go. No detention.
What if you cried but yet still won the fight? Does that count?
I don't know. I gotta talk to my dad about that one.
It's just funny though. Like, it's true. Once you hear that your own child is in the fight, that we're in a fight, and you're like, who won? Mostly for the parents, it would be father who won. My son or daughter, or the other person. But the mother would be like, oh no.
Who started it, and did you win? That's, I feel, are the two big questions. Because if you started it, yeah, others would not be acceptable of it. Though if you defended yourself, they started it, you finished it. Yeah, mothers would be a little more proud of their sons or daughters too, because women can fight. They're feisty.
Like, it just sucks about it too, because I remember sometimes that would happen, that two students would happen, there's a fight, one didn't start the fight, but yet defended himself and still got in trouble for just defending himself. And I'm like, that sucks. It's like terrible. It's like, you need to be the victim, you need to start crying to make them believe that you didn't want to fight and make them have sympathy for you. And it just sucks. It's like, oh, I'm dealing with this thing. I told him to back off and he still didn't. Like, hell no. It's just that it's not a right way to fix things. You're just creating more problems. It's like more tension between these two students. And you're not doing a great job about it. You're supposed to enforce the behavior. Basically what schools will do, they would have to force the behavior, show these two students as example for the next time. If another student decides to start a fight, that will be their punishment. Oh shoot, now that I think about it. It's just the set of discipline on that. But there are other schools that they have it differently. Like, if one doesn't do their say, I think it was in Texas. I don't know if they still do that. I don't know. But the school system in different places, it just sucks. And it's still in the United States. They would have like their own room, basically covered in, soundproof wall, maybe, who knows. And they will put the child in there. And mostly scandalous ones too, where teachers say, if you don't behave, I will put you in the closet where the monster will eat you. And that's not a good way to discipline a child. That's a child. You shouldn't do that. You're literally frightening them. It's not a good idea. You're asking for attention at that point, because if adult finds out, well, guess what? Facebook pic. This is what the teacher did. This is unacceptable.
Sue the school.
And then you got content right there. And it will go through Fox Channel News.
I would say CNN first. They would say the schools defended themselves. Parent be crazy, and then Fox News. You find out that the school did it.
Yeah. Oh no. And along with that, there's so many things that you shouldn't be doing. Like for example, special students, special like students, and sometimes students will cause stress or depression. And in order to accept the student into the school, is if they do these requirements, like for example, visit the doctor or the therapist every once in a while. You do
Take
this,
medication.
yeah.
Just to make
And there was one case where a girl was close to she's the best student of her class in her school. She was in some sport. She was basically what a mother and father would want, a perfect child, but she wasn't perfect. She had I don't know what she had, but I think she had depression, and she did all that was required, but the school didn't accept her to go for graduation. I think I think it's more likely graduation and the other fun activities what other students will do. So they didn't accept her in and didn't allow her to graduate with the rest of her students. They just took away the privilege what every student would want once they finally graduated. See the last time of their friends. Sometimes they're gonna be somewhere else and you're not gonna see them again. You may contact them. But for her, it was like everything to her. And they decided to go through that, saying that this is unacceptable. Why would you do this to my own child? She was looking forward to this. Before they even decide to let her in, she committed suicide in her closet. Just because she couldn't go graduate with the rest of her students, with the rest of her friends, and that the school just neglected her. Just because she had health issues, she had depression, they didn't allow her to go in because they think that she might be a danger to other students.
Possible school shooter, all those labels they have us as under disability.
Nah, the way how they did it with school shooters, like if it's like someone of a different race, they would call it what they call it?
Mentally ill. Is that what?
No, they don't call them that if it was another race. They would call it a mentally ill person if it's someone who lives here, who is basically, white privileged. A lot of people have seen this, and I'm like, God damn it, this is not gonna end. You know perfectly well this is never gonna end unless their mindset is different. Like the characteristics or what they think a typical Latina or Asian, anyone, or mostly whites, even though there's still racism going on, they will be like, okay, this is a mass shooter. But in the news, they would call it a white person, a mentally ill person. That's what they would basically put on that. But if it's some other race, it's gonna be a mass shooter. It sucks in its reality. You can't deny that. You will see the proof through the news.
Fun fact. Well, I don't know because now we're kind of going a little off topic. So I'll say this last thing: that there have been mass shootings, which I'm not sure what the number needs to be for it to be considered a mass shooting. Because there have been school shootings, just one person that was shot and killed. Maybe I think there's one situation 7 were killed. I could be totally wrong. Though there have been schools that have been shot.
About the one in Florida? I think.
I'm not sure. There was an individual. It was at a TED Talk. He was an individual that survived the mass shooting and made the comment that the schools knew there was just a lot of information he gave. He made a comment that his school wasn't the only one. There were several other schools, though, because they didn't make the specific number for it to be qualified, it wasn't considered that major.
There's just so many cases of school shootings. It just sucks. It's like you're targeting the next generation. That's what it is. I mean, there's mostly all of these cases that I mostly hear like from Florida. I think there was one in Texas that I remember. I think it was in Texas that that one student. I think now he's considered as an adult. I think when he he did a mass shooting in one of the high schools, and it was just that everyone was shocked about it. As any other who experienced a mass shooting, it cost the lives of probably 13 or 14 students and maybe a teacher, couple injured. I think it's been a while that I haven't looked that up again. And it was basically how the people typically called it is a white student. And I'm like, damn, it just went hard out straight on that. And they went through all the research to see why would he cause all these things. I don't remember his reason for it, but the most thing that they had at that time is that why is the student having these basically these guns? Why does this student have these guns? How did he easily get these guns in the first place? And that's when, you know, they start to say, we want more strict laws on gun holders. Anyone who wants to own a gun would have to do all these things. And, you know, they went all up to Washington. And, you know, you remember that. They went through all of that. Yes. And I'm like, damn, all these young students went to over there. And they're like, if you don't change the law, we will not vote for Donald Trump. That's what they went for. And I'm like, damn. Your future supporters will not do it for you. They're not gonna vote if you don't do as what they basically want to strict that policy. Like, well, it's gonna be hard to fight.
Jesus. Yeah, that reminds me of all those last year and just the previous years we've had with the shootings. Though it pays. It shows that it pays to have knowledge, whether it's education or street smarts, being disciplined, being aware of this, being aware of what you can do, what you can't do, and what you are capable of doing. It's insane, you know.
I guess that's another part of education, because once the schools experience basically a school shooting, they will do their education. They want to create a better future for no one else to experience what they experience. Just as a mother doesn't want to experience a loss of a child, they want to prevent that. And it's just, they mostly do it in high school students, I think. Mostly from what we've watched or heard or read, mostly it was high school students. And there was a little case of elementary students who got killed too by a school shooting. And I'm like, oh, this is way deep. These are little kids. What the hell? Whose idea is to do that? Why would you want to do that in the first place? It's not the purge, okay?
Right.
This is serious. And I'm surprised how they didn't go way mad about it, because they're little kids. It just sucks. Oh my god. It's like, how are you gonna process all of that and be like, well, another school shooting, what are we gonna do about it? How do we prevent these school shootings? And mostly they would have the video, how do you identify another school shooter? And I'm like, that looks dumb though, honestly. Just because someone is looking up guns, maybe it's a toy gun, who knows? It's anything. It just gets you mind-blowing at thinking about this. Once you think about it, and once you say it out loud, you're like, oh, damn, this sounds stupid. How did this even happen?
How did they get this far where it could have been easily stopped way back when?
Mm-hmm. And then when they mentioned later on, I think that you remember that the School of Education, you know, the one who's in charge of that, they said teachers should be armed teachers should be armed, and I'm like, oh my god, that's scary. And that was like, yeah, last year. No, it's not last year.
That was last year. That was right around because it was before July because July was the back-to-back shooting, and I believe it was El Paso and Ohio. I'm not sure where it was.
Oh my god! And the way how she put the speech and why we should have teachers armed, I'm like, that's dumb. Do you remember what she said?
I don't recall though. It was really dumb because then how do you know that a teacher won't use it on a student? How do you know that teachers will be prepared for a shooting? Like you're basically telling a teacher to take a life of a student, one of their own children. It's
the same with the other way around too. What if a student decides to take that armed weapon too? I'm like, hell no, I'm not gonna. Good thing we're in college because we can just have online classes. I'm not down with a teacher who has an arm and suddenly has a bone to pick with you. Hell no, that's not a good idea. Like that's scary. At that time, I had the English class. She told us this information. And I asked her a question. I was like, "Ma'am, are you down for this particular law? Like, do you agree that a teacher should be armed?" And she's like, "Hell no." She's like, "Hell no, I'm not down for that." She's like, "I'm not down. Like, I don't want to do that." Even if she was also one who her parents used to own. Basically, they own weapons. They own guns. Because her parents, I think they're from Texas, and that's where she used to live. Even though they are who owns guns, she would not wish for a student to own and bear arms in class. Like, I'm like, "Ma'am, are you willing to point one at us?" And she's like, "No, not even owning one here." Because that's scary. Like, you don't know anything that might happen. And there was like a drill going on at that time. To practice. And what are the things that we should or should not do? They did the drills, and I'm like, damn, this is whack. This is too much. Just like, what are we gonna do? We have windows. We have 2 doors. We have all these students. Who's gonna be the first one to get a bullet through? Who's down to be the hero? No one should be the hero. We should do what it said. Lock the doors. Don't let it in. Don't let the person in. It's just scary. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I think I remember what she mentioned. She said, I don't know exactly how she said it, but I remember one specific part about it, which I was befuddled about it. She said, teachers should bear arms in order to defend themselves and to defend the students from bears. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
I'm like, I don't know if you're going through the wild and then there's a school there. Sure, maybe a bear, but not in all these different places in the United States. I mean, we're in California. We don't have bears here.
Not where we're at. They're more popular in the forests. No, I mean, not many schools are over that.
And I'm like, where are we gonna find a bear? Like, what bear would decide to get out of its nature and decide, well then, I've been here for a very long time and now I want to go explore the country now. Let me go to school. Oh, that's not a good idea. Like, who thought of the speech like that? I was like so confused. I was like, is she kidding, right? Oh my god.
It's unbearable, you can say.
Yeah. But if this is gonna be if this is like in that time I was like, if this is our new person who is in charge of the education of schools around the world, well then we're all screwed. If teachers suddenly have arms and I'm like, no, I'm not going to college, I'm gonna stay online. Would have been more prepared for the pandemic.
True. The worst thing that can happen in an online school is getting hacked. I think.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about that now.
Could be. But it will be like a big dilemma. I mean, I don't think you'd want to go to a school, a college, where knowing a professor has a weapon. But it's not just that. They're like, no, it's not just that. They're not just gonna own weapons. They're gonna have to learn how to use it, go to therapy, check if they're qualified to use these things. I mean, you should be doing that to everyone else who decides to own an arm, a weapon, a gun, anything.
True that. We need to be qualified. And I feel like we should probably end it. We actually did end up. We did derail back to speaking about guns.
Oh, thank God.
Kind of a educational, you can say, on the serious note. So, what if you had to? If you needed to decide on one or even both two, what would you want to do? Would you say the first 2 years? I should be a little more specific. So, the first 2 years of school, would you say Would you say that school should implement manners to students, or should education and knowledge come first?
I think education and knowledge should be first. The education of basically discipline, those habits that you have. Sure, you want to improve on it. You would have to learn it from your own parents. Maybe they're not a good example, but they would want to do what hopefully they don't want to do the bad things so their parents used to do. But as teenagers, get rebellious, don't think straight. They would want to do what think it's fun or think that it's alright. Like, those typical ones that say, nah, it's not gonna happen to me. No. I think I'd prefer that. Sure, you may, for example, like the way how you set up for the discipline or education, discipline could be at home. You do that at home. The way how you do it at home is one thing. The way you do it in school is a different thing. It's like a switch of your acting. Like, I don't remember how you call it, but it's like the way how you speak for different people. Your mom and dad. Hi, mom. Hi, dad. For food. I don't know how you would go with your own parents. Like, hey, mom. Hey, dad. You sit down. You don't sit properly. You may want to be laying down on the couch. Very comfortable. You're in your own home.
Right.
But when you're in the streets, how you act? How do you act? Decent. Somewhat decent. And then when you're in work, how do you perform? How do you act? You're like, hello, how can I help you? Those are different acts for different situations. What you should be doing, what you should not be doing, all these things are different. The same thing how you speak to someone. Friend to friend, you speak how you want to do it. You're chill. Speak with a professor. Sure, they might be chill or not, but they're still your professor. Some teachers are not going to like that. They would want to be with respect on them. Same thing when you talk to your boss, or basically how you would talk to your boss and to customers. That's another way of behavior. Switch of the act. And how you speak with your boss, you have to talk in their language, how they say it. For example, Latinos, we talk differently. We have a different way of saying things, different sounds of saying things as well. And how we speak to the boss, your manager, you speak in their language. It's your act and the behavior that you switch on. It's like every day you're acting. That's what it is.
Being able to stay true to yourself at the same time. We can talk to individuals, we can talk to business owners, we can talk to like Hispanics, we can talk to Spanish speakers, and being able to not rely to them, to relate to them in a way. Mm-hmm. That's a really big one too, because of course it would be nice to be on the same, have the same accent, to have the same dialect, to be able to communicate properly and connect. That would be the better word, to connect with them. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure we can be ourselves. And I feel
you have to keep on your work accent. If you can say that, the accent is what people defies you.
That tonality is key. Yes,
it's really huge. Sometimes your boss will be chill, but if a higher boss come in, you have to be professional. There's no mistakes in that.
Could I get you
Yes.
coffee versus get your own coffee?
It's the same thing as at home. It's the same thing like you come in home, your parents teach you different ways and the behaviors in it. You do it the way you do. It reflects on you as well. Like, for example, you go to your mom and you're like, Mom, I'm hungry. And then they know, they're like, okay, mijo, te voy a hacer un caldo de pollo, no sé qué. And there's other ones who are like, Mom, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go make myself a sandwich. Okay, mija. Okay, mijo. Ten cuidado. Ahí está. It's very sharp, the knife. Like, those are two different ways of behaviors. One who basically wants other people to do things for you. Like, you can make your own sandwich. You don't need your mom or dad to make it. Well, there's another one who disciplines themselves, learn different things, learns ways of cooking. Imagine once you grow up, what are you gonna do once you're alone? You're not just gonna make scrambled eggs every day. You're gonna have to learn how to cook other things. It's the same thing. Like, it's the same thing what a comedian said in Comedy Central, you know, but in Spanish ones, you know. Franco Escamilla, I think that's his name. He's like, fui inútil cuando ya estaba con mi mamá. Ella me hacía todo, hasta la comida. Y después ya me casé, mi mujer ya hace todo por mí de la cocina. Pero ellos me hicieron inútil porque ellos hicieron todo por mí. So basically, they didn't teach you anything, so you became worthless in cooking or doing basic necessities, as in sweeping, mopping, cleaning, cooking, doing laundry. You became useless on that. You don't know how to do them properly. Only the people who learn to do it are useful in that.
That's true. We got it. It's nice. We shouldn't disregard being helped. At the same time, we should learn those simple life skills. So I kind of stand with both. Personally, I stand with both. I like discipline because how can you learn if you're not able to behave, if you're not able to sit and listen? Listening is a big skill that many people don't have naturally. So once you're able to learn, if you learn to listen, that's a discipline. From there, you're able to receive almost anything. At the same time, knowledge is very powerful, especially applied knowledge.
And that's why they put a discipline of education. That's what they mentioned that. I mean, I remember I made some also research on that too. There was a woman who was very strict in discipline and education. And the way how she said it was that discipline and education is basically your habits. You want to change those habits to good habits. And in order to do that, you have to discipline the child. The child would have to learn the knowing and then soon the unknown. I think that's how she put it, but I don't know. I might as well put my own words into it. But she was very strict in it, and it was like from many, many years ago. And it's the same thing as how she put it for a train track. What's the point of a train track where the train can't go anywhere if the train track is not there or if it's damaged? If it gets damaged, it won't go to its destination.
That is true. It just collects dust. Lump on the log, you could say.
Yes. Either way, both has to be balanced. But then schools have it differently on how they think disciplined a student is. Some might be wacky, saying you must be dressed every day neatly and clean. You don't show up to that, you're not meeting the expectations of that, then you're not gonna be educated. The same thing in Mexico. You know how they do it over there? Like for little students, not like that. I don't know if they still do that, but Basically, you know you need to show up on time to school. If you don't show up on time, they will close the gates on you. Can't go in.
Makes
I mean,
sense.
you lost a day of education.
Ooh,
wonder if
would mother be mad?
Like, it's like weird how I see these things. Like you know, like that typical, like that culture of Mexico, and then they have their own programs. What is the most known over there or here for Latino culture? La Rosa de Guadalupe, man. And I'm like, I can't get that out of my head now.
Wow.
Because, like, you know, you grow up watching parents watching something, and apparently they start watching La Rosa de Guadalupe, and you're like, oh my god. And I'm like, wow, this is what happened to people when they do these things. But sometimes you don't have to take it seriously, you know? You just learn what's basically what you think is right there.
Pretty much. You take in what you want to receive.
Yeah. It's not like every day you're gonna be excited to watch the next catastrophe for another person. Like, wow.
Yep. It's
But yeah, education and then discipline is two different things. Other people see it differently. Schools just see it differently. It's the same thing with dress coding. Sure, like how we went to that topic like way back there, like way back in the episode, in this episode now. No, but they would go with the same clothing for every student. You need to follow these. They're very strict. Public schools, yeah, there are some schools that do allow students to come in with casual clothing, like shirts, pants, shoes, different colors, you can say. Sometimes with words, but that are appropriate, you know? Images that are appropriate. But sometimes one student would ruin it for everyone, you know? And then that's when they start to enforce the rules because of that one particular student, maybe. Or more than one. Like, oh my god. I still remember that it's still happening. Like, you know, they would go with socks and slippers. You know, they would say, don't wear those to school. What if there's a fire and those are slowing you down? I mean, I guess so. I guess.
Why not?
I mean, I guess why not? I guess you could do that. But having someone, mostly the rules that were more enforced and they were more targeted to girls, basically, because of the way how they wear. It's not what they wear. Or basically, they would say, you cannot wear these pants to school. They're just simple jeans. They're not even tight. And yet, when you wear another pair of jeans that they look fine, they would say these tight jeans are not fit for school. It's just not that. It's just that the woman body is changing. They can't help it. It's another process of life where a student, a child, would soon turn into a teen. That teen will turn into an adult. It's not their fault. It's just the body changes. Sure, that same pair of pants could be fitting to another student. They won't be spoken to. But if it's another student who wears the same pair of pants, they will be spoken to. Why is that? It's the shape of their body. Other people will see it distracted, but they should chill out, calm down. It's not like every girl's gonna keep watching you saying, wow, that looks freaking hot on you, you know? It's like the reverse of that. You know what? There is one video that's funny in Spanish. El mundo al revés. You know, like catcalls to women, it's gonna be catcall to men. There you go.
There we go. That we should sponsor that. Make
Oh
it.
no. It's like, I mean, nowadays you could just, it's still gonna happen to any gender either way. Gender, non-gender, who knows? And It's the same thing with kidnapping. They're not gonna care who they're gonna kidnap. They're gonna kidnap a boy or girl, man or woman. No, it's all varieties, you know. But it's that's the education, and then the discipline. But the discipline comes from the parents later on, from mentors, or you can say other adults. Anything they watch on TV, sometimes they mention that too. You know, like if a child sees a TV show and then they curse a lot, they will start saying it. A parent's job is to tell them why they shouldn't say these words. It's not appropriate and it's considered rude. And it's basically their job to make sure that they educated their own child, make them behave well, but make them understand that. And I don't know, I'm not a parent, so that's another thing. And you don't have a parent in this episode.
I want to be a parent. But I do like what you mentioned, that it's not only prevent them to saying certain, like saying curse words, let them know why it's not appropriate. Because people will say it either way, like, "Oh, your mother didn't let you speak like that, huh? You must be a wuss." No, there's a reason why you look that much. Like, depends on the situation, I guess. You're seen as a better individual while cursing less. It's a lot of stuff that goes into there.
Super long. That's one way to finish off the season. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like, drop down a comment, and he wants to say hi too. So yeah, we'll probably be off for a couple months. Hopefully, we will be back for season 3, and we look forward to doing more things. Remember to pass a smile. See you guys next time, and thank you guys for all your support.